Thanks for joining our Verkada webinar today. My name is Blake, and I'm the Verkada Solutions Specialist at Bytespeed. Bytespeed's been a Verkada partner for about 3 years, and because of that relationship, we have about 150 happy customers. Verkada's been doing great things to modernize and automate building security. They're constantly improving their platform and adding new products. So we have a lot of great stuff planned for the webinar today. First, we'll have a conversation with Lance from Eagle Grove Schools and Brent from Greene County Schools, both out of Iowa. Two Verkada customers. And after that, we will let Zach roll into a tour of the Verkada command platform and show us what that looks like. And after that, we will let David from Verkada cover the alarm solutions. So before we get started, if everyone would want to just introduce themselves, no specific order, maybe Lance, if you want to go first.
Sure. My name is Lance Lennon. I'm the technology director for the Eagle Grove Community Schools. We're just a nice little sized district in north central Iowa.
And I'm Brent Gersma. I'm the IT director in Jefferson. We're Greene County Community School District. We're about 1,100 students, and yep, kind of right in the middle of Iowa as well.
Hey guys, my name's Zach. I work for Verkada. I'm an account executive, and I cover the eastern portion of Iowa.
Hello, everyone. My name is David Girths. I'm a product specialist on the alarms team here at Verkada, and looking forward to introducing you all to our solution. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. It looks like we also have Brady and Ryan from Verkada hopping in here as well. I think we can just kick it off with some questions. Brent, if you want to just give us an overview of why you chose Verkada and what your system looked like before Verkada and what gaps Verkada helped fill for you.
Sure. Yeah. So I started working here in 2019. When I got here, we had a milestone system with Panasonic security cameras. Pretty antiquated. We were kind of looking at blurbs and blobs, basically. Some of the cameras were automatic and they moved, and some of them were supposed to move, but they didn't. So we just had a lot of trouble with identifying anything on our video recording system. We did not have it set up so that we could access it outside of our network. If we wanted to do that, we would have had to set up a VPN. So we had principals and administrators that wanted to access outside of work hours and basically couldn't. So we looked into Verkada when we built a new high school in 2020, did a remodel in our middle school as well. And just with all the robust capabilities that it offered, between everything being cloud hosted and just ease of use, the app, you name it, we opted for that solution. Been super happy with it. It's really, really easy to use. Haven't had any problems with just getting people acclimated, and as far as not having to babysit or train people on how do I even access this camera footage at this time in the event an incident happens. So from that standpoint, it's awesome. I've been able to distribute privileges to different people that need access to specific cameras for surveillance purposes. So that's really nice. We just started with the guest system in our elementary as well, and that's been awesome. We were using a different solution that wasn't working for what we wanted it to. So this does great with the background checks, and also, the sex offender list. Really cool with the badge printing, and it works really well. It's really quick. So that's been awesome too. So as far as student safety goes, I love that if in the event there were to be someone that wasn't supposed to be a part of, or wasn't supposed to be on our campus, we can get facial recognition that'll send us alerts. So if we had maybe a parent or a domestic issue where somebody couldn't be next to a student, we could upload that picture up to Verkada's console, and then we get a flag that told us that person's on campus. Haven't had to use that yet, but you never know. Stuff like that. It's just the little stuff that is neat to be able to have access to. And yeah, just been a really good solution for us. It's totally hands off. I haven't done any maintenance on it. It's nice. That's for me what pays for what justifies the cost, and just us using it. It's set it and forget it, walk away and access it via the app or access it through the web console on your computer. Just works.
Great. Thanks, Brent. And Lance, same question to you. Why Verkada and what problems did it solve for you? And I think you were actually one of the earlier adapters of Verkada. Is that correct?
Yeah, so it was late 2017, early 2018. Scott Lyman, just out of the blue, called, and timing couldn't have been more perfect. We had a hodgepodge system, like one of those buy parts off of eBay or off of Amazon and install it, and then you have an NVR or somewhere a recorder sitting in an office. But it was terrible cameras, and we were realizing we need better video coverage in our school district. And literally that was the time Scott reached out and said, hey, we're just doing this. You have any interest? He sent me the demo camera. I literally had it running in 5 minutes in my office. I put it up in the ceiling in a matter of like 6 minutes more. And so in about 11, 15 minutes, I had the system working. It was plug and play. And it was just like, oh, wow, this is like really easy and really nice. Cost-wise, it came in when we looked at putting in a full-fledged system with the server in place for on-site storage versus what the Verkada system was. Again, no brainer. It came down to, total cost of ownership was relatively close to the same. Verkada offered us 5-10 year warranty on the cameras. We bought the 5-year license. It just made sense. So we started putting cameras in, and then we started finding other places we wanted cameras. And every time it just seemed to work out really well. Like every time we're like, hey, but we want these outside and we want to cover, 180 of our whole front. They're like, well, we just came out with a fisheye camera. And I was like, I'll take one. And we tried that out and it worked. Later on, we started realizing another issue we ran into was our bus video. And a lot of people run into this in that you buy buses from Bluebird, you buy buses from Thomas. They have different built-in camera systems or no camera system. You're putting in camera systems that then become proprietary. They need their own software on a PC. We're a Mac district. It was kind of a pain in the butt. And every time you wanted to look at it, you pulled the chip out of the bus, you brought it into the PC, and then I had to maintain a PC. I had to maintain the cameras. I had to maintain, the application up to date and all of that. And that was just to get stuff off the buses. So I kind of flew this out there to Verkada and to Bytespeed. I said, I really want to know, couldn't we put these in our buses? We have in our buses, we already have Cradle Point routers. Couldn't I have a PoE injector? And couldn't I use my Wi-Fi or my cellular connection to upload the video? And everybody kind of got this look like, I think we could. And so we were proof of concept that we can. So now our bus fleet is monitored with Verkada cameras. The one issue we ran into was the camera that ran in the back of the bus or about the middle of the bus, it was in the walkway. Those in Iowa can't be over 2 inches tall. And all of their cameras were over 2 inches tall. And then they called and said, hey, we just happen to have this 2-part camera. I put that in, and our system has, it's not to say flawless, because now I've got cameras that are on a bus that are going down gravel roads that are connected into the power systems on the bus by cabling, and stuff happens. And I have done more having to have hands-on, making sure all my wires and cables are connected on those, but it's a vehicle that's bouncing down a gravel road. And if you're in the back of the bus, you're bouncing around more than you care to, especially at my age. Then we started looking at, we adopted a new building, the building I'm in right here. It was our admin building, but we were going to start bringing over kids because our high school was overflowing. So we wanted door access control, and they had just come out with access control at that time. We put it in, so put in the smaller one, a 4-door access control, put in for 2 different doors on here, started using their access control. And was like, this is going great. The problem is our front door was constantly unlocked because it was our admin building. And we didn't want to have to put in, like we have at our other buildings, a system called AI phone, which is, you run cables, you have the little other telephones sitting there so that people can have access. They press an intercom button and you let them in. And it did have a scare where one of our students threatened to bring a gun, and we started to want to go down lockdown. And I'm not kidding you. It was the same week that Verkada came out with intercom. And we said, we'd like to try intercom. We have that in place now at the admin building and love it. We've put sensors in our bathrooms to check kids for vaping. And do they work perfect? No. But does anything work perfect? No. Do they work better than what we had before, which was nothing? Absolutely. And it ties into the same control panel. So now my door access, my video cameras, my environmental sensors, you know, the intercom system. When I say intercom, I mean to the door, all are on the same pane of glass, which is great. And it's something that in Iowa, they've passed a security budget, and we're looking to use that money to put in some more cameras, to put in more door access, and I think a few more sensors. And so my ease of use has been huge. My superintendent, who is a great proponent of technology, but terrible at using technology, even he can get into the camera systems and find stuff, and is able to download it and send it out. We had it set up where we could give the police the instant access. We had one occasion where they were outside and wanted access in. You give them that link that's live for like an hour, and they could follow and look around before anything happened. We have had some incidents where we had to, some fun things happen in the district that we had to go back on the video and catch. Had some fun things on the buses that we've had the video for. One of the other things that really worked out was one of the updates they came out with on the cameras was the audio, being able to record audio. And so I literally turned it on, and then there was a fight 3 weeks later in the hallway. And if you just watch the video, one kid would have gotten in trouble and the other one wouldn't have. When you had the audio, you heard that the kid that wouldn't have gotten in trouble, he was definitely inappropriate and should have gotten in trouble too. Not that he should have gotten hit, but he definitely started it. So in public spaces, we've now turned on audio for some of ours just to have those and have that kind of stuff. So I love the system. I tell people I don't promote things I don't believe in. I eat the dog food I sell, and not that this is dog food, but I'm using it. If I'm promoting it, if I'm here talking to you, there's a reason for it. And I do believe in the system, and I really like it.
Good to hear.
Great.
Thanks, Lance.
Yeah, thank you very much. So my next question was going to be, which products do you have deployed out of the Verkada suite? But I think you both kind of covered that already. So if you guys had to pick like a favorite product, out of everything that you guys have deployed, which one would that be? And kind of maybe if you could dive into why. I think that would be good for everybody to hear.
Well, for me, right away, it's door access. Our old door access controller it runs on a legacy SQL server that I have to keep running as is, which is a 2012 server. And the security implications that having one of those sitting on your fleet causes, I don't lose sleep over, but I worry about. I don't have web access to. If I'm offsite, I have to VPN in just to get to that machine to open a door, to close a door. Whereas now if somebody says, hey, I'm at the front door and it's not open, I get on my phone and press a button, and they're in. I can access the cameras, make sure it's really them. Same thing, the desktop application. One thing I didn't talk about is we ran the original Apple TV app that used to have to be able to set up different monitors, and all of my school offices have those, and they now are able to watch the cameras. They look up, I have large screen televisions in place they're connected to, they can see certain cameras. So I would say door access is my favorite. That would be my second in terms of the ability to set up, here's cameras they need to look at very quickly, and they don't have to get into command, they can just look up at a big screen. And the nice thing about that too is as people walk in, they realize I've got cameras, and they see that.
So I would say the cameras as well. I do love the guest system, though. Again, we're relatively new to it, but it's highly customizable. It makes them scan a license in some situations, runs that background check, kind of just a peace of mind for we know who's coming in. And we're running records against databases that are telling us that for sure. But the cameras, so some things that I didn't talk about, the tamper detection. So I've got middle school and high school kids, elementary aren't quite tall enough or can't jump on high enough, that will jump up and hit the cameras. Anytime a camera has been tampered with, I get a text. And it's kind of fun because it sends me that information with video right away. So I get to immediately basically look at my phone. I know where the student is. I walk down, I say, hey, how much do you think this camera costs? We have a conversation. Take a look at what you just did. Every time that happens, I get a text. So next time we're not going to do that, because if you break the camera, you pay for it, right? Just little stuff like that, fine details that that it offers that I haven't seen anywhere else. Another thing, we just had an incident where a student got a concussion in PE. And so they're jumping through all these hoops on who's, needs to cover it and all the, whatever hoopla that goes along with that. So we had to send video footage of that incident to insurance. And so I was able to jump into our web portal, pulled up the footage, archived it, and then sent it out to the appropriate people. It took me less than 5 minutes. And it was, I left the link open for 4 weeks. If they needed longer, we can adjust that. I can also set it up so it's view only, so they can access it through the web portal, or they can download it. And that's customizable by me as well. So that was a super quick fix. It wasn't a put it on a flash drive. It wasn't a send it via Google Drive or whatever FTP or uploading site that I'm going to push it to. It's all sent through Verkada's web portal, super seamless. I can send it via text, like Lance talked about with police officers, so they can access it via email or via text. Again, just super robust. There's a lot of little stuff that Verkada's kind of covered that is just, it's well thought out, and it just works. So yeah.
Great, thanks, Brent. Lance, you had kind of spoke to, things happen and running into trouble with the cameras on the buses. But in regards to the Verkada products themselves, have you had any troubles with the cameras, the access control, and how has Verkada resolved that issue for you?
Yeah, so we had one of the cameras that just decided during a firmware update that it didn't like it and didn't take it. Very simply, I called them, they overnighted me another one, I switched them out, sent it back, no problem. I've had a couple of cameras where same type of thing, it just wasn't taking the update, it would turn off and on. And one time they were able to get into it and actually update it and flash the firmware, and it worked fine. I never had to replace the camera. That's my preference. The support's always been there for me. Like I said, that 5-10 year warranty, I think it's 10-year warranty on the devices themselves is incredible. The ability to just say this camera is going to last me 10 years or be replaced is really nice. Things like that really in the beginning, being an early adopter, you go through some growing pains. The cameras on the bus, this was a change that I was able to do with them that was so nice. But back before, Brent talked about the tamper detection. That had to be set individually by camera, and you couldn't turn it off. And so when the cameras went in on the buses, remember buses are bouncy. Those cameras were going off all the time. And I was thinking, I'm gonna have to go into each and every one and set that. Now it was choose a bunch of them, set the tamper on it, and I was able to do it very quickly that way. And I didn't have to contact Verkada. It was turn it off. I don't have tamper detection on those cameras anymore. It is fun though. I do I still have that when they turn on and off, I get notified, and then I can tell when teams are leaving from the place they're at. They start the bus up because they're leaving the track meet. During football and basketball games, you could watch the inside video and actually tell by the look on their faces whether they won or lost. I didn't have to be there. I could tell right away by looking at the kids. But no, they've been very responsive. Again, they are technology equipment. Stuff's going to happen. It's just, that's the nature of the beast. And if anybody sits there and says, we never have problems with our stuff, they're blowing smoke up your USB port. It's not true. Things are going to go bad. Things are going to break. It is then comes down to how is that service? And I've loved the service I've gotten, and they're responsive. You have questions, you have comments, you have suggestions. Like I think enough of us said, the tamper detection needs to be something we can control. And they're like, yeah, let's build that in. And they did. So that's my response to that question.
Very cool. Brent, any similar incidents like that?
It's interesting. I haven't had a ton of kind of problems. I guess with the guest system, when we first installed it, they were having some problems with reading licenses. And so I called right away, and it was a known issue. But so here's the thing, I called, right? I didn't send an email. I didn't wait a week. It was immediate, right? I talked to somebody right away and got a quick response, and they were like, yep, this is a known issue. We're working through it. I'm going to get back to you when we know, what the fix is. And that was like an hour and a half later. They're like, yep, we've already fixed it. You just need to update the guest app on your iPad, And sure enough, I did that, and what do you know, it's seamless, it works, it's flawless, I guess. So love the customer support side of it. So there's different tech companies that you're going to have different experiences with. This is one that I've never had a problem with support. If I've ever had a question, if I haven't known how to do something, or if I've ever just had a problem, it's super responsive. Mad props on that end, because I can't stand, it's a hurry up and wait. All right, we know we have a problem. I've sent support a message. Now we're waiting back to hear from them. It's immediate in every experience that I can think of. So really, really good on that end. But yeah, no, again, and I'm not just saying this, these things have been rock solid. They do patch, or they do firmware updates. You can configure when those happen. So you could do it at like 2 o'clock in the morning, so that, during critical hours, they're not restarting. It's maybe 10, 15 minutes at some early morning where it needs to restart. And that's what it'll do it itself. But again, that's automatic. That's not something that I'm managing. It just does it. So again, very set it and forget it and walk away, and it just works.
Thanks, guys. So one last question for you guys. I know we've hit on, tamper settings, audio, but maybe if you could, pinpoint 1 or 2 other features in the, across the system that you guys really think makes your school, your students, your staff, more safe, or, safer on the day-to-day basis.
So one thing that I didn't talk about that is pretty cool, and you'll probably show this if you do your demo, is we can set up facial detection. So what I could do is I could upload a picture of a student from Infinite Campus, and it's going to scan that picture and then find instances of where that student has been. I can also use like color of the shirt and or pants, if I wanted to. So I had a kid who told me that he left a Chromebook in a hall. The Chromebook was taken into the from the desk in the hall into a bathroom, and he told me who the other student was. I couldn't find that student, but I had another. Basically, I uploaded his picture, and I found him. And I found what he was wearing that day, and I was able to find the hall and the bathroom when he walked into the bathroom with the Chromebook, using that instead of just like scraping through the 4-hour window that this may have happened. It was 10 minutes of work, and it just, oh, there he is. And what do you know? There's the Chromebook. He's walking into the bathroom with it. Yep. Okay. Now I know that this actually did happen. The kid wasn't making it up, and I can go talk to the principal about potential discipline here. But that's super, robust, super awesome, that you can just, based on outfit or based on the picture that you upload, it's going to find, and it's not going to find, so there'll be similar students that look alike that it's going to identify as well, but it's still going to find that student also. So it's easy to parse through. You can also do it's like this grid mode, where you can search for activity in a certain area of where the camera is facing. So if I know that maybe something happened in this quadrant of this camera, and I want to just see that door open or whatever, you'll do that, and you'll start it, and it's basically just going to show me every time that door opened or anytime there was motion in this quadrant of this camera, which is really, really cool. And that's over a span of, for us, 30 days. So there's always, that's another thing too, I guess I should mention, is when we archive a video, it's archived forever. So that's pushed up to AWS. We have 30 days worth of storage, but in the event that I want to save something, I enable that archive, and then I have access to it for as long as I need access to it. So we just really like the product. I've used this for a long time now, and hands down, it's been better than anything else I've seen.
For me, I'm going to talk a little bit about, and it kind of just fit in. Scott asked a question in the Q&A about the vape sensing product line. It is not just a vape sensing device. It's an environmental sensor. When it first came out, my use of it was my server room. My server room has no external windows. It is, got a central air unit, one of those split units in it. And I just put it in to check, what's the humidity in there? What's the temperature in there? And lucky enough, it went off at my temperature level. My air conditioner quit working. Had I not opened that door, that room would have been, I don't know how hot, because it was on a weekend. And I was able to go in, open the door, cool it down, and at least get airflow until they could come fix the mini split and do that. But we've put them, like I said, in our restrooms. One of the things in them is an audio part where you can have a set level for decibels. And so if voices get raised or fighting occurs, you could possibly catch it, or a gunshot. And you always wonder how loud does it have to be? For some reason, just because I'm an idiot and I have an air horn, I set the decibel limit, went in and blew it right in it. And I found out it wasn't low enough. The air horn didn't pick it up, and I can't remember what it was. I kept lowering it until at least the air horn set it off. But there was a fight in one of them that we caught. That just because of the noise level, someone got banged into the stall. It set it off. Our dean of students was able to run in quickly and see what was going on, and two kids were fighting. And it's just something we probably wouldn't have caught, and who knows what would have happened. Part of our safety grant that we're looking at is putting some of them in the hallways and using them as noise detection, where they would detect, unfortunately, a gunshot. But the product line itself, they just came out with the new one. I don't have the new ones. I still have the older models. So the original models, I don't know what the new ones, in terms of what they can do more or less. But just, again, going to the command center, you just literally say, here's the limit. If this hits this, send an email, send a text, send to these following people. And it's simple once you get them in there. The one thing I would really like, and I've asked them for this before, is here's a great little idea. With the door access controller, make a little door access control, like card reader, that can sit on my desk so that I can build the cards for my staff and I don't have to go to the door and scan their cards. I would just then be able to sit here because I'm lazy. It doesn't have to be a full functioning, just something that will read the cards so that I don't have to go to the door every time to standardize the cards. But no, yeah, I think that would be probably the thing that I feel has made us more secure, Zach.
Great. Thank you for kind of, explaining that to everybody. Blake, was there anything else you wanted to run through before I jump into the platform?
No, I think we're all good and we can move on. Brent, Lance, really appreciate the insights from you two. Thanks for all the great information. And I guess, Zach, if you want to just take the floor and go through command and do your thing.
Yeah. No, so we're gonna really try. I think I have 15 minutes here, so I'm gonna start my timer. If I start to go over my limit, please feel free to interrupt me. But we're just gonna quickly run through everything that Lance and Brent were kind enough to just kind of walk through their own experiences with these things. As I go through this, I'm sure you guys are gonna have some questions. Feel free to throw them in the chat, like it looks like some of you have been doing. I think we'll have some time for a Q&A here towards the end of this call. But so this is Verkada Command, right? So like Lance was saying earlier, you can access now any single one of your security products directly from this single pane of glass. So top left-hand corner, we have that little waffle. You can see I can jump into my cameras, my door access control, my air quality, vape sensors, my alarm system, intercom, guest, mailroom solution, right? So again, everything's kind of right here for you. We do have, let me see here if I can play around with this. I can't. I have a bar here that's blocking me a little bit, but you'll see right now we're on our headquarters, right? So if I just scroll down, we're going to see all of our cameras across all of our sites. We can, dive into each and any one of these sites. You guys obviously have autonomy to really get as granular as you'd like to with the naming system. You could have your gymnasium cameras, cafeteria cameras, and really however you guys want it to be set up is how it'll be. Some people are a little bit more visual, right? So we actually have an integration with Google Maps where what you're seeing here is all of our Verkada offices across the globe. We've, kind of blown up over the last couple of years. I can jump into any one of these sites, right? So we're going to use our headquarters here in San Mateo, California, for example. You'll see here we have two little locations. If I click these 58 cameras, what we're going to see is kind of a 10,000 foot view of all of our devices, right? One really nice thing about Verkada is that we try to be as proactive as possible when something does go wrong. Like Lance was saying earlier, it is technology, it happens. We just kind of pride ourselves in what we do when something does happen, right? So if one of these was yellow, again, you'd receive a notification about that. What you can always do is come down here to our help chat. You can either have a direct live chat with a support agent. They are US-based engineers. 24/7 support is always included with every single product. You can call, email, whatever works best for you and whatever kind of best suits your timeline. I can jump into a floor plan. Majority of the schools that we work with, I'm not sure if Lance and Brent, if you guys do this, but we've started to kind of integrate this with kind of like emergency response plans, right? So when something goes down, whether it just be a drill or an actual scenario, what you're seeing here is, again, a floor plan with all of our devices. Each camera actually acts as a motion sensing device. So what we're seeing here is anywhere that somebody's walking around, right? I can click into any one of these cameras, see what's going on. Here we have some cars driving by on Claremont Street. Again, if there was a true situation like a lockdown and we needed to know, hey, if everybody is where they're supposed to be, nobody should be moving around. This is very quickly going to tell us anywhere that somebody is moving around where they shouldn't be, right? And it gives, most of our schools share this with local law enforcement. So anytime they do have to come to the school, they have this pulled up and they can act as quickly as possible using this technology. Let's jump back into the cameras. We'll start there. We're going to show you some of those features, some of those analytics that Lance and Brent had hit on there a minute ago. So first and foremost, right, we're looking at our live footage, right? If I scroll down here, there's not going to be any more like press play, fast forward, rewind to find our footage. It's as simple as just dragging my mouse here across this clip, right? At the very bottom of this little screen, what you're seeing is little blue tick marks. Those blue tick marks are indicating motion, right? So typically we're looking for people or vehicles. You'll see people are going to be in green bounding boxes. Any vehicles driving by will be in a yellow bounding box. So we have some activity going on here. There's some people walking in, some vehicles driving by on the street behind. The important thing here is just note these cameras are smart enough to pick up the difference between a human being, a car, a squirrel, a deer, a tree blowing in the wind, right? When we're looking for something, involving an incident, we want to very quickly be able to find just those people or vehicles, right? Another way we can do that is with motion search. So what we can do, let's use this bike rack over here, if you guys can see that for an example, right? So what I can do is highlight that bike rack. Maybe, somebody had a bike stolen from the bike rack at school, whatever it may be. What the command is going to do now is just pull times when I select people where a person, was detected motion around this bike rack, right? So I can scroll down, find my clip. Let's say it was this clip. We check this, make sure that this is, in fact, the person that stole the bike. I can pause this. I can add in additional cameras for context, right? So I can add in this one, this one, this one. You'll see they're all time stamped at the exact same time. And then what I can do from there is actually pull this footage from the camera and keep it in the cloud, right? So you guys have unlimited cloud storage. There's no additional costs for that. And you can download a clip from every single camera every single day. And that'll be there perpetually. So whenever you guys do need that, it'll be there waiting for you. Another thing we have is people analytics, right? So I know Brent hit on this a second ago, but first and foremost, we can scroll down here and, find all of our different people. Let's say we had very minimal information about something that went on. All we knew was that this individual was wearing a blue shirt and they appeared to be, let's say, a male. So as I scroll down here, what we're going to see is just any time a male would appear to be a male wearing a blue shirt. Again, it's 2023. Some girls have short hair, guys have long hair, but it's going to the best of its ability pick up anytime anybody that matched that description, those criteria that we put in across all of our cameras. Right now, we're just looking at this one camera right here at the front of our entrance. If I hit search all cameras, it's now going to look across our entire fleet of cameras, all of our different buildings, to find anybody that, again, match that criteria. We also have something called face search. This isn't facial recognition. We're not storing any of this data. It's just, again, the fact that the camera is smart enough to pick up, hey, this is a face, and it knows what that is, right? So I can scroll down here. I can find any number of these faces. Let's pick on maybe this guy. So when I click on him, the first thing you're going to see is the picture that I just picked up on. But as you see, it's going to pull any time, any instance that this individual has been spotted on our cameras. Again, if this is somebody that maybe we don't want at the school, we're going to be able to see anytime they were at the school, where they were, what they were doing. I can click on this and see the actual live footage associated with it. I can also create a profile for this individual. Maybe this was an angry parent or somebody dealing drugs in the parking lot. Again, somebody we don't want at our school. And if they are, we want to know that, right? So I could, give this guy a name, call him bad guy, whatever we want to do. It looks like we have a couple bad guys wandering around headquarters, so hopefully we can keep them out of there. But then again, I would mark them as a person of interest, right? So now, similarly to everything else, like the visitor management, the intercom system, I can mark them as a person of interest. So anytime our cameras pick up on this individual again, we're going to receive an automatic notification via text or email, however you guys want it to be set up. And it can go down chain of command, right? So it can first notify front office, superintendent, school resource officer, however you guys want to have that set up. So again, some pretty cool features and functionalities in these cameras that again make them a little bit more proactive than everything else that we see on the market right now. Settings, that's where you're going to find things like motion events, where you can again set up some more proactive notifications, set up your tamper events, so on and so forth. Next, I wanted to jump into, I know we had a question about air quality access control. We can jump into that if anybody would like to see that. I do think it's pretty straightforward, but the real benefit there is that it integrates with everything else, right? So it integrates with your cameras, your door access control, intercom, visitor management. So air quality, right? So we have a couple different types of sensors. We'll use this one as an example. It's our SV23 model. This is what I would say 95% of all of our schools are using, unless they have a very specific use case. So here on the left-hand side, you're going to see all of the different things that this sensor is going to picking up for, right? Vape index, temperature, humidity, carbon dioxide, noise level. Kind of like what Lance was saying earlier with the noise level. He used an air horn. What a lot of other schools do is what they'll do is kind of put it in there for a week or two. And what you'll get from that is kind of a baseline, right? What the average noise level is. And then I would recommend, just going maybe like 5 to 10 decibels above that. Yeah, you might get, just a kid, singing really loudly in the bathroom, or somebody slams the stall door shut. But again, if something's going on and there is a louder than normal noise, we're going to be able to pick up on that. And it's as simple as coming over here to this little alarm and choosing the exact range that I want to receive that alert at, right? But again, they're pretty straightforward. They are hardwired. There's a lot of Wi-Fi solutions out there. Another pretty big benefit of this is that you're going to have the automatic footage tied to that, right? So again, a lot of these are for vape sensing in the bathrooms. What they'll do is place, 1 or 2 vape sensors in the bathroom itself. Obviously, we can't have a camera in there. So what we'll do is place a camera outside the door, right? So again, this let's say the vape sensor triggers the alert. Unless you have maybe the superintendent or somebody, a teacher that's in that chain of command for the alerts walking by that bathroom, or unless they're sprinting across the building to get there, typically it's hard to catch them in the act, right? So the really nice thing here is that, hey, this trigger was raised. We now have the footage that correlates directly to the time that that alert went off. So we can very quickly just look at the footage, see who walked out of the bathroom in the next, 2 to 3 minutes. And we've now narrowed down our potential pool of culprits to a much smaller, number than if we were just trying to, check every student to see who was in there. But again, pretty nifty. And again, they work pretty well at, what they're meant to be doing. Alarms, David's going to hit on that here in a little bit. I'll jump into our intercom. This is our newest product. Working really well out of the gate. Like, we've been talking about its technology. Things don't always work the way they're supposed to the first time around, but really, I think we hit the ball out of the park with this one. It's been working really well for everybody. So here, let me jump back here. So this is what the iPad's going to look like. I think Lance has one on his desk if he wants to, show that later on. But again, we can pair the actual intercom itself. This is actually one of our 5-megapixel cameras, so you're going to get all the same features and functionalities out of the intercom itself, right? So you can do, your people analytics, your motion search with that camera. But you'll see we also have some other cameras tied to this, right? So we want some context. Hey, who's outside the building? Who, we want to see who they are. Maybe they're a tall guy, and their face isn't getting picked up well on the intercom itself. So we have some additional cameras again for context there. Within the intercom, you'll see here that you can access this via a phone, via command, like we're looking at right now, an iPad at the front desk, desk phones, really however you guys want to have it set up. So I could talk back and forth right here. I can unlock the door. We do actually integrate with third-party and other access control vendors for this, which is pretty nice. So whatever you guys have now, you'd be able to get this, and it would work exactly how it's supposed to. Let me see here. I need to move this little thing. Sorry, so I have this bar at the top of my screen with like the camera and stuff on it. Let me see if I can move it. All right, so here we have all of our events, right? So it's going to keep track of every single event that's happened here. You're going to have the camera footage tied to that. So we click on this one, we'll see our UPS guy walking up. Let's try this one. Might be having some connectivity issues here. I apologize, but yeah. So you'll see here he comes, he rings the doorbell. It's going to keep a quick log of everything that happened. So you'll see it went to our lobby desk station. So that's the iPad. If for some reason they didn't answer, after 25 seconds, it's going to go to the next person down that line of people that it's going to notify to check the intercom, and they can grant them access via the phone or the iPad. And like I said, it's also going to keep track of individuals with our facial recognition here. I could jump into that, make them a person of interest, really whatever I needed to do. And then receivers, right? So again, we have that chain of command. How do we set that up? Pretty straightforward. We just come over here. So during your business hours, which we've outlined over here on the schedule to the right, who gets the first call goes to the lobby first, which would be your receptionist. And then it's going to go to Rachel and finally David after that. Last but not least, of things that I'm going to chat about really quickly are guests, right? So this is our visitor management solution. If you guys are familiar with Raptor, it's similar to that. I think we do have a couple, integrations and features that really make it a little bit better. First being the hardware itself. You'll see here again, just like everything else, the guest station is actually tied to some cameras. So if I were to click on, let's say when Cheyenne checked in, we're going to see here very quickly the footage of her walking into the office. Let's see, here she comes. So there's Cheyenne, she's signing in. It'll give us some information about who she is. So we see here that she's a guest. She signed in, the date and time that she signed in. She signed an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. And then we can also mark this person as a person of interest. Very similarly to kind of what we were looking at earlier with the people analytics, we're going to be able to see any time and where this individual is walking around our building, right? So it looks like she didn't spend too long in here. It's probably just for demo purposes. But again, anytime, across the entire fleet of cameras, we saw this individual walking around, we're going to be able to see exactly where they were, what they did. And yeah, again, it works pretty well at what it's meant to do. There's some cool settings in here. I'll show you really quickly just the branding demo. So this is what the iPad would look like. We have a couple in here. Obviously, you guys would, get your school logo, match your school colors. There is also a QR code there if somebody, didn't want to touch the iPad. They have the ability to do it that way. And here's a quick little example of what the badge would look like, right? So you have the individual's picture, who their host is, as well as their name and the reason for being there, right? So this person's there for an interview. It's going to show them exactly who they are and what they're there for. I think that's, again, pretty high level. That is the Verkada command platform. Happy to answer any questions here in a minute, but yeah, Blake, if you want to jump back in, let me stop sharing here.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. I think we can hand it off to David. David, you're going to talk about some things with the Verkada alarm solution.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we sort of complete this transition here, I just wanted to quickly mention to Lance and Brent, I'm not sure if this statement is going to help me or hurt me, but I'm originally from Ankeny, and my family actually lives there, graduate of Ankeny High. So next time I'm in town, would love to make a coffee session work out. So that one helped me, I'm guessing, from Brent's perspective, at least. So I'll go ahead and share my screen here. Verkada is one of our not necessarily newest product lines, but it's been available for about a year, is our intrusion alarm and professional monitoring package. And I'm going to cover this in a couple different ways. First of which is just to kind of give perspective on what problems we're trying to solve. The first of which is with traditional commercial alarm systems, whether it's Sonatrol, ADT, etc. What you typically see is a lot of complex hardware integrations. These are probably systems that have been installed close to 20 years ago. Nobody actually really knows where the wiring is going, how it's powered. A lot of them are actually still receiving connectivity via phone lines. So we're trying to move away from that with Verkada. A lot of frequent false alarms. The biggest aspect of this problem comes from the fact that there's no sensor integration with a camera system. So your door contacts, your glass break sensors, your motion sensors, a professional monitoring agent with a traditional system would view that event without any video context and validate it and give you a call at 3 a.m. in the morning when it might be a piece of paper that's simply flying across the classroom. Additionally, on top of that, it's a very antiquated user experience with a lot of platforms that are out there. For the most part, about 70% of the organizations that I work with don't have true access to their intrusion alarm system. It's being managed by a third party that they work with, or maybe they have very limited roles and permissions within the system that they have. Outside of that, it's always worth mentioning that many of these systems, and this isn't just for intrusion alarms and sensors, but for a lot of devices that exist in the physical security world, they come with 2, 3, 4-year product warranty, where Verkada, regardless of whether it's intrusion alarms, a camera mount, an air quality sensor, that's going to come with a 10-year product warranty. And that was mentioned by Brent and Lance individually as well, in terms of what that RMA process looks like and what our customer support looks like. So before hopping into the demonstration, when we're talking about intrusion alarms, we cover this in 3 separate ways, and we think about this in 3 separate ways, depending on what your security posture is on site. We have a hardwired panel. So for existing systems that are leveraging a 2-wire or 4-wire pair, all we're effectively asking is that you swap out the alarm panel. It's a pretty quick, clean, and painless process. We just need to make sure that we're routing that accordingly. If there's a new design build, a new building that's going up on campus, you may want to entertain the option for a wireless solution. So we have a wired hub, or excuse me, a wireless hub. It's powered over Ethernet, much like our cameras and our air quality sensors. This has a 200-foot communication radius with obstruction. And the reason that a lot of customers actually find this very interesting is not only does it provide connectivity to glass break sensors and door contacts and motion, but it also has the ability to support a panic button. And that panic button can be placed in individual classrooms or areas of ingress or egress, just depending on the use case and what the emergency response protocols are for any given customer that we're working with. That being said, these traditional intrusion systems that are offered by Verkada, you don't necessarily need to use that. We have professional monitoring, and that monitoring is a software-based system that sits on top of all of the devices that you would entertain from Verkada. So if you have an air quality sensor, if you have cameras, if you have an intercom system, all of those can be professionally monitored simply by turning on a license or a software function of the system. And when we're talking about professional monitoring, this is 24/7 professional monitoring where you can effectively arm and disarm the system during operational and non-operational hours. And Zach sort of touched on this, but with all of what's going on in Verkada from your devices, we have this alerts page here. And for a lot of customers, this is enough to retroactively go back and see what's going on across the platform at any given point in time. We have your person of interest notifications, your motion, your after hours alerts for tamper, motion, etc. All of that is centralized right here. But a lot of customers also don't want to wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning, and I find that perfectly reasonable. So with this intrusion alarm system, you'd migrate over to alarms, and here you can see our addresses with our subsites or zones underneath. And each one of these subsites or zones has their own individual sensors that route to them, have their own action plans for the event, for emergency events. They have their own sort of protocols and arm and disarm schedules as well. Just clicking on one and going at it from a setup perspective, this little gear icon in the top right corner, we have our general information, specifically the address. So if we're going to contact emergency dispatch, this is obviously something that we need to have. Afterwards, we're just routing which cameras, which sensors, which doors actually route to this particular site or zone. Note that if we're looking at the wireless sensors, here's our panic buttons, our door contacts, etc. Each one of these devices will actually pair with a nearby camera. So when our professional monitoring agents see that there was motion triggered or a panic button was pressed, they're also getting visual context via video information, video-based information to validate that event and why Verkada will respond in the way that we do. So if we're going to notify you at 3 a.m. in the morning, it's because that event was validated by our team. Once you've determined the devices that should route to this site, you're just setting up what our responses should be. So we have max security, in which case, if a pen drops, we are notifying you and we are engaging. Normal security, we're going to wait to determine whether this is a threat to people or property. But in many cases, and the entire scope of types of events that could potentially take place, it's hard to bucket that into two groups. So we also have custom rules. So you tell us how we should engage. If an agent can't determine a threat, maybe you don't want to raise the alarm, but you still want to be notified. Once you've helped us sort out video verification, we want to know how we should handle emergency dispatch. Do we have the authority to contact local police in the event of an emergency situation? If a panic button is pressed, do you want to wait for video verification, or should we go right to local PD and say, hey, a panic button in this classroom was pressed. Please respond to this situation immediately. We also have a BZ11 horn speaker that allows for agent talk down. So this is a device that would be on site that after a motion event was sensed, the monitoring agent views that footage and sees that person. They can talk down remotely and say, hey, we see you, you're on campus, please leave, you're being recorded. So while that's all happening, we're obviously going to alert you. So which individuals from this particular site, campus, or district should be notified? Is there a call order in which they should be notified, or would you like us to just send SMS and email notifications? While those two things are happening, we're also setting up the ability to have physical alarm actions take place on site. Are there sirens? Are there strobes? Are there sounders that you'd like to go off if there's intrusion after hours? You can also upload a recorded audio file to the BZ11 to play a message of your choosing. But lastly, and not least, you can set up the system to engage in an immediate lockdown. So the most common use case for this is with those wireless panic buttons. Panic button pressed, entire system goes into a lockdown and all doors are locked. And this would take effect while the system is both armed and disarmed. So it doesn't necessarily have to be armed during the day. Not many people would want to do that. And then last, you have your arm and disarm schedules. You have the ability to access your alarm portal and the rest of Verkada's product suite via mobile applications, where you can disarm and arm the system via mobile. You can obviously do it via the web browser, but you can set up schedules such that the system will automatically arm and disarm itself if you follow routine operational hours. So for the sake of example, now that we've gone through setup, this is actually what the system will look like when you arm and disarm it. So we're not only going to keep track of events that are taking place while the system is armed, such as this, but disarmed as well, where just today we had over or just under 3,000 device events. And all of these device events will actually take you back to the moment in which this happened, this camera that justified our response and our video verification, so that you can review yourself as well. So we have about 6 minutes left, so I'm gonna hold off there and stop sharing my screen and then open up for conversation.
See if we have any questions here. Sound alerts from a camera in a classroom is a question. Is that possible, Zach?
So while the cameras do record audio, no. So what you would most likely do in that scenario is pair one of our environmental sensors, which again is going to picking up on noise level with the camera in the classroom.
Sounds good. And before I wrap everything up here, guys, do any of the panelists have anything else they wanted to add?
Definitely reach out if you've heard anything today that you would like to hear more about or get any additional questions answered one-on-one. Please reach out to Blake, myself, really anybody on the call here. We'd be happy to schedule some time with you to dive deeper into everything. Anything that you saw today, we are able to trial, so we can get these things out to you, product in hand, make sure that these things are working exactly like we're saying they will rather, and make sure it's the right fit for you guys.
Good, thanks, Zach. And Brent, Lance, thank you guys very much for going over your guys' deployments. I think hearing your experience was great for everyone. David, thanks as well for going over the alarm solution. I think the virtual guard is a really cool thing to have, a whole team of people standing behind your deployment. So thanks for that. To all those in the audience, we'll be sending an email sometime this afternoon with information to fill out for your Starbucks gift card, we promised, sponsored by Verkada, and some contact information as well, and a recording of the webinar. So thank you everyone for your time today. I appreciate it, and I look forward to talking with everyone in the future.
Thanks all.